quiet.
Hello, this is Paula, and this is the Common Book Show. And damn it, I'm not going to introduce everyone because there's just too many people. They're all the regulars except Sal, who is not a regular. He's an irregular. So we we are going to start with a story from my book, the Phonographic Memories, and it is called The Birds and the Bees by Jewel Aiken, because I named them all songs, okay? I slept in a room that was just big enough for a 3/4 size bed and a dresser. There were 2 feet between my dresser and my bed and a steam heat radiator under my window that took up the space between the wall and the dresser. In my little space of a room, there was a window that was kept open all year. In the winter, my mother always had the heat cranked up to about 350, trying to bake us all with a nice crisp skin. I had a closet that was added. If you stood under my window outside David's yard, you could reach up and touch the bottom frame. My friends knew that if they stood underneath day or night, I would hear them call out to me because my window was open. I was often disturbed out of sleep by Al, my lifelong friend who had gotten an extra ration of testosterone in his Christmas stocking in his 12th year. It was his tradition to wake me up on the way home from one of his dates. Dates, to Al, were wrestling matches with willing girls who would go home at the end of the night with a button torn off their Peter Pan collar blouse or their mohair sweaters pulled out of shape. There was never a shortage of girls who would go on these dates with Al, no matter how bad his reputation got, because he was a smooth talker. He was a rugged teenager with the kind of curly hair that could easily be brushed into an afro, which was super cool in 1970. In fact, Al fancied himself as an African American and wore himself out with this delusion: Motown, fancy brimmed hats, and dance moves. He dressed hip for a Lovejoy boy and even borrowed my hot pants on occasion when he had an important date. Yes, I had a male friend who wore the same size as me, and we sometimes borrowed each other's clothes. Unisex was hot. On these nights, when he would call me under my bedroom window, I'd go out on the porch and sit with him on the steps while he'd tell me about his sexual exploits. My sex education started during these talks, where I would sit with my mouth wide open as Al explained foreplay and the acts that we all knew were parts of doing it. Our ideas about sex came from what we had overheard or read between the lines of the R-rated movies we managed to see. I had recently learned the basic facts from our upstairs neighbor, Mary Ann, but she didn't give us any details. The fact that some boy had to put his penis inside our private parts was bad enough, but Al went into shocking detail. I hung on every word, and I took mental notes for when I would be expected to do such things. I had an encyclopedic knowledge of perversion and oddities by the end of that summer. Such things as nipple biting, which sounded horrifying, or licking in places that made me imagine the taste of salted codfish, or inserting fingers into someone's private orifices, or using devices that you needed to buy at the XXX store where they never bothered to check your ID. Some things were too strange to even share with Mary Lou or Jackie. I didn't want to corrupt them. I don't know what Al was trying to do with these midnight cowboy monologues. He wasn't interested in me as a girlfriend. I had already slapped his hand when he tried to cop a feel in his basement. Maybe he wanted me to think he was such a stud that I made a mistake when I rejected his advances. Maybe he aspired to write a series of letters to Penthouse, and he was trying out his material on me. More likely, he got his information from his brother VJ's stash of porn. Nearly everything Al told me that summer turned out to be bullshit, but that was the only information I had when I started my own sexual experimentation. Years later, Al admitted that he didn't even have sex until way after our little porch talks. The first time was with a girl in the neighborhood who took the summer of love quite literally. Low self-esteem coupled with the free love attitudes of the 1970s turned out to be a bad combination. We were all confused by the ideas promoted by the children with flowers in their hair of San Francisco versus our parents' ideas on Catholicism and purity. Monsignor Valenti told us premarital hand-holding would send us straight to hell, and the culture was telling us to love freely and often. Those two opposing ideas drove so many of us to experiment and then magically become virgins again for the next time we took a shot at it. I don't blame Al for all this misinformation, because just about every piece of information that I took in off the streets from my friends about sex, sexual orientation, and expectations was inaccurate. The worst part was that some people never corrected that information. Our friends, family, and strangers had created a reality that we were trapped in. Many never got past that because of the stigma on what carnal knowledge said about a person, especially about girls. Currently, not only does our society look down on sex education, but they are suspect of education, period. Get out of school and get a job. What these narrow-minded people don't understand is that education is not about creating genius. It's about widening horizons and correcting misconceptions formed by our limited resources, oral knowledge passed down and around by those in our tiny worlds. Pieces of information that were embedded in your fertile brain as a child or adolescent stay there unless mined out by education and truth. In my own college education, I learned that some young women would talk to their mothers about sex. A friend I met in an acting class told me the first time she had sex, she called her mother and told her all about it. I nearly fainted. I learned that sometimes young women take an older lover because, hell, at least he knows what he's doing, hopefully. I learned that boys are not like girls and have different expectations about love and romance. I learned to turn down dates when the guys talked too smoothly because that meant they had lots of practice and were probably like Al. Mostly, I learned that I was on my own and had to figure it out for myself. Once I managed that, I could pass that knowledge on and get better results. Al figured it out for himself eventually. However, he never curbed his appetite, and that would get him into trouble repeatedly. There were many times when I helped him after he got punched in the nose by a jealous husband or boyfriend, times when I let him cry on my shoulder when a local disc jockey, Shane, taunted him live on the radio when Al lost a girl that he loved because he couldn't keep his hands off other girls. Shane started dating Mary Sue, and after she broke up with Al, and for revenge, she got Shane to address Al on the airwaves with messages like, "Hey, Alfonso, you don't know what you're missing with Mary Sue, and she's all mine because you were a moron." Another lesson, boys usually want what they can't have, way more than what's available to them. Sorting it all out takes a lifetime. At least it felt like a lifetime. Okay, that's it. That's my contribution because we got a lot of people to talk to today.
So what have you learned?
Wouldn't you like to know?
Don't walk around with your mouth open.
Catch flies?
or something else.
Yeah, I don't walk around on my knees too much.
I'd like a copy of that book.
Well, not all the stories are as spicy as that, Sal. You know, that was, but you know, true story. And as I said before, we based a character off of my friend Al, and James played that character.
Can I look at the book?
Sure.
And half the character went into my movie.
We'll have to wait for the Hollywood adaptation for the spicy scene.
It's just like we always cast Todd as the devil because he plays the devil so well. He's like so perfect for the devil. I mean, and you're just a perfect guy for those kind of roles.
When does the movie come out?
When does the movie come out? This is not. You know how much trouble it is making these movies. It takes years.
No. Video camera. A room in a house, you're all good.
Yeah, well, we got a lot of actually. We've got I don't know 5 movies.
We have to know somebody who plays precision bass.
I've been making 2 short films a year, and that's been crazy.
Yeah, it's a lot. You know, you gotta herd people around, and that's difficult because everybody's, you know, if you're not going to pay them, it's difficult. I guess if we had money, we could pay people. They'd show up and you know.
Even when you're paying people, they don't
dye their
always show
hair
up.
and cut their hair and gain 50 pounds.
All right. So anyway, we have not had a show for a few weeks. So Richard, You got some stuff?
Would like to hear what people have to say about the reversing of the verdict on Harvey Weinstein.
Oh, okay. Anybody want to start?
I didn't hear about this. Can you give me a quick thing?
It's very interesting, the grounds that they had. He got put on trial for
Yeah.
what was it?
Pedophilia?
No,
I don't know what
No,
percentage.
Harvey Weinstein, he had sexually harassed and abused women.
Well, I knew it was something sexual.
Yeah, yeah, but not pedophilia.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
here's what his legal team argued. And what's amazing is there were 7 justices who heard the appeal.
Yeah.
Mhm.
3 said, this is nonsense. And 4 said, you got a good point there. We're going to throw out the conviction.
But they're going to retry him
Wow.
No, well, that's up to the prosecutor.
now. Oh,
Do you think all those people who testified at the trial are going to want to come back and relive it?
Gee.
well, he's got 16 years though in prison from California.
And they're going to appeal with the same grounds.
Well, California has different laws though.
Well, now tell me if you think that these grounds for appeal were valid. There's a thing in a court of law called a character witness, which means, let's say, you are on trial for, say, shoplifting.
Yeah.
So you can have witnesses sworn into the stand, right?
Yeah.
What kind of person is this person here? I mean, you've known them their whole life. What are they like? And then they tell you. They don't tell you whether or not you did the shoplifting. They just tell you what kind of person you are.
Yeah.
All right. And that is allowed. So what the prosecution did in the original trial was, let's bring in all these people who've had experiences with him, not the particular ones that are the plaintiffs, but maybe other experiences, and let's have them say, this is the kind of guy he was.
Right.
Okay? And they asked the judge, and the judge says, sure,
Yeah.
bring him on. Well, the appeals court said, all those people who you brought up as character witnesses, they prejudiced the jury because it was implying, well, if he did those things to those other people, he probably did these things to the plaintiff.
Right. And
That's interesting. Like,
he wouldn't have even needed those in that trial because there were so many people that came forward to accuse him that they could have just done the trial based on
the accusers.
the accusers.
Mhm.
Yeah. So I don't know I don't know why they even did that because he was a well-known it was well known that Harvey was he was one of those guys who put the women on the producer's couch or whatever, the director's couch. It was known throughout Hollywood. It's just people didn't talk about it because it was a different time. Now Harvey, my situation, I lucked out. He didn't have his technique down yet. So for me, it was just a matter of having to see him naked. There were no potted plants or he didn't try to grab me or anything like that. So I didn't have the same experience. And in fact, once I found out he was famous, mine was a funny story to tell at parties. So these other women who were, attacked by him, he was a sleazeball. It wasn't only me at that shoot. There was another woman that who but she didn't make out as well as I did because she was attacked or whatever you want to call it. So anyway.
So would you have sided with the 4 judges who said, you're right, he wasn't given a fair trial?
No, I wouldn't have sided with him. I would have said they were extraneous. Other people were extraneous because there were so many people that came forward to accuse him.
Yeah.
That, but
I mean, so the question is do you put the events on trial that took place or the person's character on trial?
well, there's nothing illegal about being a sleazeball. It's just acting on that impulse that makes it illegal. You know, he acted. He had power over all these people. You know, and he abused that power. You know, it's just something that happens, and so. And it happens in Hollywood all the time. It became a joke. I mean, wasn't it a joke back in the 60s? They would have it on comedy shows. They'd have the starlet come in and sit down, and the you know they would make jokes about it. It's just a different time now, you know.
What are your thoughts on this, Virginia? Do you think it was okay for the prosecution to bring in all these other people to testify on his character?
Open-minded here. I think if the Supreme Court justices have decided that they prejudiced the jury, perhaps there is a tinge of it happening. Maybe not so much as what the Supreme Court justices are saying, but perhaps there are some.
Right.
I think that whenever we have a case in court, that it is important that we allow people to come forward as character references. But I didn't watch the trial, so I don't know how many character references they had. How many did they have?
Well,
Over 100 women.
yeah, there were.
Wow.
He had he had quite the reputation, and
Over 100 character references. The court listened to 100
Yeah.
character references.
yeah,
Yeah.
it may have been extreme. You know,
It may have been extreme. I don't know. I don't know because I'm not an attorney. I'm an artist. So
yeah,
and I'm a reverend. So, but
see. I don't think that. Yeah.
If 100 women came through, and they were and the jury listened to 100 women, it seems to me that is a bit of overkill. The unfortunate result is that it's been appealed. That's the unfortunate result because he's obviously guilty.
Well, it wasn't. Right, he's guilty, but I'm not worried about it. Like the thing is, I think it's crazy that this happened. That they're going to send it back, but he's got 60. They're not going to change it in California. I was on a thread with all of those angry women in California. A lot of them stars. I was on an email thread with them, and they will not allow this to happen. Believe me, because some of these women were. It's not going to happen. I am not on. I mean, I haven't heard from any of these women since all the Harvey Weinstein stuff. I'm surprised I didn't get an email about this new thing. But he's got 16 years. He's not going to live 16 years. Mm-hmm. He'll be in prison the rest of his life, and I'm not worried about him having to be retried in New York because I'm pretty sure he's never going to be a free man.
What are your thoughts on this, Brian? Do you think if you would have sided with the judges who said this is bullshit, the conviction stands, or the ones who overturned it?
Well, similar to Paula, when I saw this, I think it was yesterday morning, early, drinking my coffee, I was shocked. And then I don't know if I could give an honest, correct opinion on it without knowing more. I didn't follow the trial that closely. I don't even know all the details. And I'm not a lawyer either, like Virginia said, so my knowledge is limited on the law, but I understood what you were talking about with the character references, and I had no idea it was 100 women. I knew it was a number of women.
Yeah,
but
it wasn't all women either. There were some men who said that he threw he threw food
they
at
were
them.
Witnesses to it?
No, that he abused them psychologically. You know, he threw food at them.
Harassed them,
he
yeah.
He talked to them in a very unprofessional way. I mean,
I didn't even know.
He didn't have respect.
I didn't know that, yeah.
But those people were not pressing
I didn't even
charges.
follow the trial that well because I just assumed that he is guilty, like you said.
Yeah, well, I mean,
So-
well, I'm just satisfied that he's gonna not be free again. I'm satisfied with that.
James, do you have anything you'd like to say on this?
Well, if we're talking equality, it's a correct decision, because if there were a case, for instance, where a woman was claiming that she were raped, and my defense was it was not only consensual, but actually it was a trade of services. I can't bring on the stand 100 men to say that she's a prostitute, and I can't bring witnesses to say that she's a loose woman who hangs out in the men's room of the Flamingo and services whoever comes through the door. So that's my thought.
Well, why couldn't you?
They don't allow it.
I don't know if that's true.
I'm telling you,
Yeah.
they don't allow that.
Yeah. Well, if I would have to research that before I would concede to.
She's skeptical of the claim.
Yeah, I'm skeptical
And
because
that's fine.
because if the
I don't have a specific case to say, bring this up on Google.
Yeah, because a known prostitute, a prostitute who is known, who has been, in that, a sex worker, a known sex worker, it's who claims. I mean, that's true. Even if she was a known sex worker and she claimed to be raped, she still may have been raped.
I'm agreeing with that.
Yeah.
But the point is, guys are not allowed to say, I know 10 other guys who banged this chick. She's not the little virgin that she's pretending to be.
Yeah, but it doesn't matter. But what I'm saying
my point is they wouldn't allow me to smurf a little conga line of 100 guys.
Because you still could have raped her even if she was a sex worker.
And even if 100 people say they had bad experiences with me, that doesn't mean that I'm guilty of whatever.
Yeah. Well, that I agree with. That part I agree with. Okay.
I looked it up. 100 people spoke to the press. 6 women showed up at the trial and testified against him that were not.
Yeah. Yeah, but I agree. I agree with you on that last point, but not on the prior point. Okay, so I'm not. I mean, I don't want to. I know that this is in the news. I saw this on CNN when I was watching. I watched this one show, Caitlin Collins, and I saw it come through. But like I said, I had no. Yes, and that's the same way that what's his name got out of prison.
Cosby?
Yeah, Cosby. That's how he got out because it was a technicality during the trial. So he's out, but is he dead? Or is he just very old and
I haven't heard anything about him
doddering.
dying. Has anybody heard
No.
anything about him dying?
He's fine.
Yeah, but he's out of prison.
How long was he in prison?
I think it was like 2 years.
I think it was more than that. I think it was like 5 or 6 years. I believe. And I mean, I was disappointed because I really liked him. It's like.
Yeah.
And of course, to keep up my position on the show, the technicality in the Cosby case was very important.
3 years.
Oh, 3 years? Oh, I thought it was more than that. Yeah, the technicality was.
Did you know that Cosby, he was supposed to buy a house in Lockport, and it was across the street from a school, and they wouldn't let him buy it.
Why was he buying a house in Lockport?
I have
That's what I was
no clue, but it was right off of Lincoln, and there was a school directly across the street. A beautiful house, big house.
Yeah, I travel Lincoln once a week because that's where Greg's mom is on Lincoln in Lockport.
Oh, that was that big white house right next to the school. I believe it has
That's the house. Every time we go past that house, his mother says that looks like my old house. That's so weird.
Well, it's so he was going to buy that, and I guess whatever, it fell through because it was next to school and he wasn't allowed to be within 500 feet of the schools or something.
Yeah, there's laws about that, but anyway.
Maybe he thought he'd be incognito and nobody'd expect him in Lockport.
Yeah.
It's kind of not a big place, though.
Yeah.
So he'd have to be seen.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm okay. Let's switch over now. I've had enough of this talk. How is okay? So Joel, are you still there? Oh, Joel left. Okay, he's usually the only one he'll usually be reading something. So who do I have here? Oh, Brian, what are you reading?
I'm not bragging. It's just my usual MO. I'm reading several books right now. I switch up. A lot of friends tell me, they're like, I don't know how you read like that. Like, I'll read a few chapters in one, then I get not bored, but I just feel like reading a different one. So I bought for $1 at the Audubon Library. I bought Blowout by Rachel Maddow, which is the horrific history of the oil industry. Still horrific. Mm-hmm. Then I'm reading Jim Sciutto. I don't know how to say his name. I think he's a CNN guy, a journalist. It's called The Shadow War: Inside Russia and China's Secret Operations to Defeat America. And I'm reading this book called Agent Sonia, Totally True Story by Ben McIntyre, about this woman who was the greatest spy in World War II.
Oh, I am really interested in that book.
Yeah,
she was incredible. She ended up, she was born like in Poland or like right on the edge of Soviet Union. She, like the rest of her father and family, was really into communism. So she ended up working for basically what is now the KGB or whatever. But she ended up going from across Europe she got fake passports and ended up in England. She was instrumental in Fuchs, that guy Fuchs, who was he was a spy that sold he got all the, it was initially the British started work on the atomic bomb.
Yeah, it's Guy Fuchs, right? Yeah.
Right, and the Manhattan Project overtook all that, and they took all the scientists from England and they came to the U.S. because they thought it'd be more secure that way. And they didn't know, and Fuchs went to the U.S. to work on the Manhattan Project. But this woman, Ursula, her name's Ursula, the real woman, nobody in England, M15 had her in for questioning multiple times. Her paramour was in for multiple times. And because she was a woman, Paula, nobody thought she was capable of any of this.
Yeah, of course.
Of course.
And she was a colonel. She was a colonel in the Russian army through the KGB, and she was the greatest spy the Soviet Union had.
Yeah, well,
it's pretty amazing. And she had 3 kids during it all. And she was a woman with 3 kids. She was like looked like a homemaker. And because of that reason, the head of M15, absolutely, even though a woman, she was a rare top agent. No, the British woman in M15, who's one of the only women in the British Secret Service, she said, "This woman is a spy. I know it. And they didn't even listen to her.
Yeah, well, that doesn't. Could you tell Mick that I don't really care about ratings?
So it's pretty interesting.
Mick is concerned that our ratings are going to go down, and I don't do this for ratings. I do this to get together with my friends and have a conversation.
Hey, not to change the subject, but I made a mistake about the Lockport house. It wasn't Cosby. It was O.J. Simpson. that was
Oh,
supposed to
yeah.
buy
I
the
can understand
Oh.
OJ wanting to move back to the area because he was an icon here.
house. Right.
But
right.
yeah, it's okay. I mean,
I don't know why I was thinking Cosby. And,
because we were talking about it.
both in prison and
But
whatever.
anyway,
yeah, okay.
I see one picture behind you. I haven't seen another one for a while. You're not cycling them?
Oh, you want me to? I can.
Well, I like it when you
That's
do
Buffalo.
because that's
Yeah, we all enjoy
that's-
it so
that's
much.
That's
Paul.
Buffalo.
that's a cool picture of Buffalo. But I'd like to see some more if you can cycle some through.
Oh, absolutely. I
Is
can do
that lightning or is that just a sunscape?
That's the sun coming
Yeah,
up.
the
from behind it.
it's like
Okay, that's
a
just a
cloud.
sunscape.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like a cloud. Okay, I see what you're saying. Yeah.
Oh, how nice!
Oh, look at this!
Very nice.
Look at that with the red rock at the top. It's really interesting.
Is that a cairn?
It is. People build those, and that was right here in St. John's, Newfoundland, on a part of the landscape. So people put these things together just for show.
Yeah, it's cool. It's like ancient. There's an ancient art.
I like how you have
Oh.
the green down at the bottom and then it has the red up on top. It's really kind of interesting.
Well, whoever put that stone up there, that's what it is. But I mean, they're used for markers or to mark the trails. That could be a grave. It could be a place where they store food for weary travelers. So
Oh,
they're,
really? Food too.
Well, what if you dig
Yeah.
it up and it's a body instead?
Well, then.
Oh, that could be
that's the way it
food.
goes, I
No.
guess.
It could be.
Yeah, it
I
could
know.
be.
I have. Ever since I took that anthropology class, I think differently about cannibalism. So,
Right.
I
How different.
well, no worries.
No worries. She said.
I don't have any recipes for I probably could switch out a beef recipe or something, but
Oh wow.
yeah. So
That's how big the icebergs are that float by here. Now that's a real
Wow.
helicopter
that
that's
is
landed on it.
very cool. Wow.
Look at the helicopter.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
That's a nice use of color because of the red with the blue sky. That's beautiful.
And the funny thing is the icebergs, they always have a blue tint to them.
I know. I can see that. That's really a cool. Is it because it's reflecting the sea and the sky?
No, it's because the ice is, it's probably 14,000 years old, and it's so dense that it produces this blue tint. Even when it snows here, and if you look in the snow looks blue.
Oh, that's so weird.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Are you in
Salt air.
Newfoundland?
Yeah.
Yes.
Wow, I've always Nova Scotia and Newfoundland have some beautiful landscapes. I've always wanted to go up there. I
absolutely.
probably never will, but
Hey, Matt, what are you going to plant this year in your garden? As I see you out there with your little gardening hat.
I don't know. Right now, I'm just focusing on getting the soil. I know I want to get chickens, so I'm in the process of.
Oh, you're getting
brainstorming
chickens.
Where
I
do you
love
live?
it.
Do you live in the city limits?
Yeah, I live in the city, so the city zoning code allows. I think it's.
It allows chickens, but not roosters.
Yeah, you can't have.
You can't have roosters.
Really?
I think it's like maybe four hens per 1,000 square feet, or
Really?
there's some limit
I had-
how much.
My father had chickens in we lived in the city limits in Lovejoy, and he had a rooster, but he'd keep the rooster in the shed, and all the neighbors were complaining that somebody had a rooster, and my father would go out there, rooster? Somebody's got a rooster? He needed the rooster for the with the chickens, but anyway, no roosters, but chickens you can have.
so did your family just eat the eggs, Paula, or did you actually eat chickens occasionally?
I believe, since my father butchered a goat one time, I'm sure we ate the chickens.
I would assume, yeah.
Yeah.
He butchered a goat in your yard or something?
Yeah, I wasn't born
In the
yet,
basement?
but I've heard, no, in the yard. I don't remember that because I wasn't born yet, but he apparently, we were running on some hard times and we had a goat, so that was dinner. He told my mother that somebody gave him some deer meat. because she wouldn't have eaten the goat. It was a pet. He told her he took the goat to his friend's farm. A lot of lying going on there.
There's a lot of buzz on the internet about the congresswoman who shot her dog.
Oh, I didn't hear about that.
Anybody hear about that?
No, I didn't hear about that. What happened?
Did Bobert actually shoot it?
Bobert? It was Bobert?
I'll look it up. I don't know the name. No, I don't think it's Bobert.
Oh.
But the story goes like this. She gets a dog. I guess you would call it a puppy.
Mm-hmm.
She's training it and training and training it. And then one day, the dog notices a bird in the yard. I don't know where the dog saw the bird, but the dog went crazy. I mean, the dog went after the bird, and the dog wouldn't calm down. And she concluded that there was something mentally ill with the dog.
Oh, Jesus.
Oh, my God.
Christ, almighty God.
And that the dog needed to be euthanized. And
Something
Oh,
mentally wrong with her.
And since she is a gun owner and she has a big tract of land,
Of course, she's a gun owner.
she took the dog out to part of her land to shoot it. Wouldn't you know, she did it right at the time that the kids were coming home from school,
Oh, my God.
and the school bus was passing by her property.
Mm-hmm.
They got to see her shooting the dog.
Oh.
Holy shit.
And nobody heard about this?
Yeah, there are
People are getting
animals.
so stupid.
I
There
don't
are
watch
animal
television,
protection.
Richard.
Yeah.
I don't watch television.
There are
so
animal
I missed all
protection
this.
laws. You know, I know somebody who left their dog in the car and it died and they got charged. They had to go to court.
Yeah.
Interesting.
And that's the end of that story.
Yeah.
Well, back in the day, before they had really veterinary facilities, people, I guess if their animal was sick or it bit somebody or got out of line, they took it out back and shot it.
Old Yeller.
Yeah.
Well, if it was going to die anyway, yeah. But
Well, yeah, I guess. I mean, believe it or not, I had to do that.
Really sick.
He's going to tell her.
Oh, you had to do
No.
that when?
When he found out that his
when
cat
I
had a
lived in
terminal
Casper.
illness.
Yep, my cat, and it's. I tried to do it the right way. I went to the vet, and I says, "Listen," I said, "you need to put this animal down." I said, "It's sick. It's getting skinny. It's not eating. It keeps throwing up. It's in a lot of pain if you pick it up." Well, they wanted to do all these tests, right?
Yeah.
I'm like, no. You think I'm spending thousands of dollars for you to tell me that you're gonna have to put
Well,
it down? I says,
Yeah, that's what happened with my cat.
I says, there's no way. So I says, I took it out back and I put a bullet in its head, and that was it.
Oh God,
Yeah.
I don't know if I could do that.
I mean, I was upset, but it bothered me.
Yeah.
But I didn't have a choice. I tried to do it the right way. They
Yeah,
wouldn't-
we had to pay a lot of money when George was 18 years old, and they were doing all these tests.
Yeah.
So
I that's crazy. I mean, they know. I mean, it's sick, and there's nothing that can be done. I'm not going to spend, like I said, thousands of dollars for you to say,
yeah,
hey,
it's
well,
but it's a shame because that's what vets do to people because
Right.
they know that they love their pets, so
Right.
the people want to keep their pets alive, and my cat was in kidney failure,
Yeah, that happens, yeah.
so
I'm holding
My
it too
friend's
close.
cat had that.
I mean my cat was 18. That's an old cat.
Oh, yeah, that cat wasn't making it much farther than that.
So
See? I found a humorous side to Paul's story about shooting the cat.
And what is that?
I said, "Don't you have two cats?" He said, "Yeah." I said, "When you took that one cat out in the back and shot it, was the other cat looking out the window?" And he says, "Yes." I said, "Did that other cat who stayed in the house, was he wonderfully behaved after that incident?"
there was never another incident.
No, it was he was perfectly
Yeah. So
very docile.
Yeah.
Didn't get into any He just sat there and looked at me. He didn't do anything.
Yeah.
I don't
I
have,
couldn't
I
do
couldn't, I couldn't do it either. So Sal, what are you up to these days professionally? Are you doing a film or are you?
Yeah, I'm working on the second feature film that I'm directing, but we're gonna do it as a series of shorts and then tie it into a feature later. And
Are they all going to be on the same subject,
Yeah.
or how? What's the thread?
The thread is basically a group of people taking part in competitions to try and win a prize.
Mm.
The competitions are like different acting competitions, that kind of thing.
Oh, okay.
With a little bit of drama in between.
Who do you got working with you on it?
I have a lot of people. I was just talking to James about coming on board, but a lot of my regulars like Brandon Majeski and Rachel Castellani and Ann Burka and see, I'm still working on the cast itself.
Mm-hmm.
But I've also worked on 2 other films that I did with friends, a feature and a short. And I've got plans to work on 3 other films that are other people's also.
Well, that's
In
that's fun.
addition to
It's a
working
lot,
on my own.
yeah.
So,
It's a lot.
and I'm also writing my first stage play. So,
What's the play about?
I took some of my films and made them into a stage play. Mostly my first film about the hippie family and how the father didn't get along. Where we had you mentioned Todd being the devil. I cast him in that film as the evil boyfriend.
Todd's a good devil.
Mhm.
Oh,
So-
there's a puffin on your head.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a large.
He's beautiful.
That's a big puffin.
Is that,
There's,
is that
actually-
a photograph?
Yeah.
It looks like
Yeah.
a painting.
These puffins on the island here, they populate there's 500,000 of them. And the area that I go is in Bonavista, and it's called Puffin Island. And there's hundreds of thousands of these animals there. They'll come right up to you. They'll walk 3 feet in front of you. So, yeah. And it's actually the season starting, in May. They'll start, they're already starting to come in. They nest here, but they live in the water. They live in the sea. So they come here to nest and have babies. And then
They're so
they-
freaking cute. They are
Yep.
so
Beautiful.
I think at one point, Paul even photographed one bird bringing flowers and laying it at the feet of another bird.
Oh, yeah.
Oh wow, that's a puffin.
A puffin, yeah. They
Yeah.
give
Yeah,
each
yeah,
other
yeah.
little
Oh,
gifts
look how
like that.
beautiful they are. They're just so
I think-
pretty.
I think they basically, I don't know if it's so much a gift. They build nests with it and stuff, so that's probably what they're doing
Yeah,
with
but
it.
still, it's a sweet gesture. I mean,
But
the
you have
flowers.
to give the perfect twig.
Yeah.
What's that?
He's doing an advertisement for bird flowers.
The number one florist used by puffins everywhere.
Yeah.
But it's true. It's part
And
of.
they're irises. The flowers are irises. Purple
Oh.
irises.
So that
I'm
must
trying
be
to
a
find
great
the
contrast with the
picture.
orange beaks.
I'm going to see if I can find the picture. There's a close-up of one.
Wow,
Uh,
looks like
that's its eye. That's what its eye looks like.
it's something's
They
reflected
look
in
kind
the
of
eye.
intelligent.
I'm reflecting in it. I'm the one taking the picture.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So
Cool.
Let me see if I can find the one with a flower. I'll have to- let's
well, while
see
you're looking
here.
for that, I'm gonna
Yes.
defer to Richard again to see if he's got anything else on his list. Did you make a list this
I
week?
did. But I want to hear what's
Are
going
there
on.
any nice things?
No.
I'm just kidding. I mean, can we get away from murder and rapists and?
Well, does anybody have any thoughts on the protests that are taking place at college campuses throughout? Now it's the world.
Yeah, I do have thoughts on it.
Protests on what?
Man, you are
Really upsetting,
What
yeah.
world do you live in, Sal? This is all over the news. So here's what happens at Columbia University. You know how college administrators are asked to show up in front of Congress, and they're grilled. And so they had Harvard and Penn State came before Congress, and they were grilled by conservative lawmakers saying, do you realize that the pro-Palestinian demonstrations at your campuses are making the Jewish students scared?
Mm-hmm.
And they were on the hot seat, right? And so what happened then is they called the head of Columbia
Mm-hmm.
to come before them.
Mm-hmm.
Now, Columbia is in New York City, and it has a huge amount of Jewish students.
Mm-hmm.
So the administrator went on, knowing that she was being set up,
Mm-hmm.
and she said, we take a very hard line against students who make Jewish students feel uneasy. And anything that is said that threatens them, they will be dealt with to the fullest extent of the law. We do not allow that.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the students at Columbia heard that on the news when she testified, and they said, this sounds an awful like you're not allowed to protest against what you consider to be a war of genocide. So what are we going to do? We're going to protest against the war on genocide. We're going to set up all of our tents on the school lawn, and it's going to be called an encampment.
Mm-hmm.
An encampment that symbolizes the injustices that are being done against the Palestinian people. So that then the head of the university comes back to her own campus. She sees all these tents there. What a colossal mistake. She calls in the cops. She says, get rid of all this stuff.
I did see that I saw that on the news, the cops with the billy clubs and
So that
Yeah.
that took it up to a whole new level
yeah.
of like, hey, this is the 60s all over again.
Well,
So next thing you know, all these campuses throughout the country, just like after Kent State,
yeah,
are protesting
Right.
either the topic itself or what's being done at Columbia. And now it just this morning it happened in Paris and it happened in
yeah.
Berlin.
Well,
Well, we had a protest at UB.
Yeah, what I object to though is not the protests, because the protests are what our country is about.
Mhm.
What I object to is conflating, and it's the same thing that happened when we were at war with Japan. When we were at war with Japan, people got scared of Japanese people, and there were internment camps. Now they're conflating Israelis with American Jews, which is unfair and is not what people should. You should not be acting out against American Jews, whether or not they're on the side of Israel or Palestine.
Right.
They should not be, because these are separate situations. I don't want to see a situation where where people who are not involved with what's going on over there. I mean, even the people that live in Israel are not 100% on board with what's going on with the Palestinians. So
A lot of them aren't.
exactly. So
Yeah.
now we have people, young people, fearing for their lives because some zealots are demonstrating against an atrocity that's happening in another country, and that's not fair. It's the same. Like I said, it's the same thing as what happened with the American Germans and American Japanese in this country during the wars, and that's not fair.
Well, Paula, I think they're protesting that we are fueling the war by giving money and arms
No,
to
I
Israel.
understand that, but they're also threatening the Jewish students who
Yeah.
are on the campus.
Well, that's not right.
They
We
are.
should
They're
never
calling them
threaten
killers.
anybody.
And that's exactly what I'm talking about. I know.
We should never threaten anybody.
See,
We
they
should
can.
never.
They certainly can protest. I salute them. You know, that's their salute. They, but I don't know if they have a full understanding of Hamas and the freedoms, and like if Hamas came here, their freedom to protest would dissolve. But if they're talking about the Palestinians, it's one thing. But there are some people who have gone as far as to say that Hamas is they are a victim, and Hamas is not a victim; they're terrorists. So if they had to live under the auspices of one of these terrorist groups in the Middle East, they would not be able to protest, and they should understand that, but they don't, because they don't have a deep enough understanding.
Well, to
of
your
the
point,
situation.
Paula, I don't think. To your point, Paula, I don't think that these young college students today understand all of the deep history of the Middle East and what has actually happened there. I said to somebody yesterday, I said, what do you think would happen if a terrorist group in the United States killed almost 2,000 people, cut babies' heads off, raped all the women? What do you think the U.S. would do? And basically, the analogy to that is 9/11. Look what we did after they hit the World Trade Centers and killed 3,000 people. We attacked the whole country and bombed the whole country.
Right, the wrong
And we
country.
killed tens of thousands of Iraqis,
Right, so
innocent women and children.
I know we overstepped the same way. Well, I have a lot of
And
real.
Biden said he warned them not
I know.
to
I have a
overreact,
lot. I have a
but
lot of really strong feelings about on both sides. But the thing is, we should as a nation be able to take an ethical stance on this, and not bow under to the economics of the situation. The economics are getting in the way of us doing the right thing, and that's never.
well, there's
that should
the
not be
political
acceptable.
reality that
There's a bird with
There's-
a flower. Yeah.
there's the political reality that Israel and the United States are firm allies and have been for 75 years or whatever it is. And they are our ally in the Middle East, and they are our bastion in the Middle East, basically, to all those terrorist groups that they're surrounded by.
Right.
And we can't just abandon them. I didn't like that they gave them that last arms shipment.
Well-
I thought they had already had enough weapons. They don't need. I wanted Biden to cut them off.
Let's give them
Like a couple
let's
weeks
give them an
ago or
empty
whatever.
state in the United States to build Israel. Let's give them an empty state.
Well, this is something
We don't have an empty
something
state.
nobody talks about. Something
I got
no
some
one
that
talks
are
about.
pretty
is that
Sorry.
there's only 2 million Palestinians and 7 or 8 Arab countries. They could take them all in. They never have. Why?
Yeah. Well,
Because they want to be able to plant terrorists
you know,
there.
I also
They want to keep attacking
Yeah.
Israel.
I know a couple.
They do not want Israel in the Middle East.
I know a couple Palestinians. Okay, I have there was a guy who ran.
But
a
it's not
barber-
them. It's Iran.
No, I know.
It's Iran.
I know, but I'm
funds
saying
Hamas.
they are very strongly wanting a homeland, just like the Jews wanted a homeland. And it's you know,
Sure.
it's the same thing. There's now a diaspora of Palestinians where there used to be a diaspora of Jews. So we've
Correct,
solved one
yeah.
problem and we've created another. The two-state solution is the only answer, but with what's his name?
But Netanyahu didn't want it.
Netanyahu he's the one who's holding all that up, and I mean there's some other
sabotaged
hardliners.
it.
There's hardliners in Israel who don't want it either, but that's the only way it's gonna be peaceful is if there's two places, each one has their own homeland, and it's not gonna.
But could they coexist, though? Could they actually, with a Palestinian state in Israel,
Not in-
could they really coexist?
They're not doing
Like you
very
said,
good
I know,
now.
give them a state in the U.S. like Wyoming, right?
Yeah.
But
No, I know. That was a joke.
Yeah, yeah.
In
Yeah.
1947,
I know.
Yeah.
Grand Island was considered exactly what you just said.
Are you kidding me?
Yeah, it was on the table.
Holy crap!
There was
I
a
didn't know
plan.
that.
Can you imagine if Israel became Grand Island? how different our lives would be now.
How
Yeah,
how
where
hard
would they
it-
put Fantasy Island?
how hard it would
I wonder what the
how hard it would be to get to Niagara Falls.
The indigenous say that they own Grand Island, so I wonder if they were even consulted in that.
Yeah,
deal.
they do. Anybody who owns property on Grand Island only owns it on a temporary basis.
My
Really?
family's on Grand Island.
Yeah, they don't own the land. They only own the house. And the I don't know. I think it's Seneca Nation owns that property.
Seneca Nation.
Yeah.
It's similar in Hawaii.
Really?
You can only have a 99-year lease.
Yeah, that's Hawaii. Is it that like that in Hawaii? Because I know 99-year lease is what you can if you go to Mexico and you buy a house, you have a 99-year lease, and that's it. You can't pass it, keep passing it down. That's
Wow.
so. All right, so this is. Well, I can't believe how many people are here today. This is really a lot of fun. I missed this. This is great.
Is this a record or?
I don't know. Is it a record?
I don't know.
Tom would know. Tom,
We have 9 people.
Tom, is it a record?
I'm not sure.
So much for Tom knowing. But
Nice engineering job.
yeah,
Tom.
yeah, great job. So I'm still reading I'm reading this crazy book, this Dr. Hudson's Secret Journal, which is an actual journal of a man from the early part of the 30s. Really fascinating, extraordinary. I'm reading Ibsen, a book of plays, and there's one thing in this book. There's one thing in this book, Richard, that I thought about you when I read this, because we've had this discussion, and I want to tell you the upshot of this. Okay, so it says. So this is a one man speaking to another. No, I won't even read that part here. I'll just read this. So much the worse for him. The average man of his life. The average man of his life illusions. No, Rob. Okay, I'm sorry. I'll start over. So much the worse for him. Rob the average man of his life illusions, and you rob him of his happiness at the same stroke. Now, Richard and I have had this discussion about, being totally honest or hedging a little bit, because some people need to hang on to their illusions. Religion is one thing that pops to mind. But in this play, this man is told that his daughter that he loves dearly and his wife that he loves dearly, the wife apparently had been involved with a man before she married him, and the daughter was not his. So he was told that to clear the air so that he could have an ideal relationship with his wife with truth as, as the rock, the bedrock of that marriage. And what happened is the little girl shot herself because the father rejected her, and she took herself out in the barn and she shot herself.
Oh my God.
So that is what can happen when you take away someone's illusions. Not all illusions are well, truth is good. I'm not saying truth isn't good, but I'm saying that sometimes people need a little bit of
Sometimes truth serves no purpose.
illusion.
Well, that's the thing about the Charlotte Rampling story. She's an actress. She has a sister, and she gets a call from her father saying, "Charlotte, I know you're working on a movie now, but could you possibly go to Berlin to see your sister?" And she says, "Why? Why?" He says, "There's something going on in her life that's very, very bad." So Charlotte goes to Berlin to see the sister. The sister had committed suicide. So she calls her father and said, "Dad, you were right. She killed herself." And you know what the father says? "Let's tell your mother it was a car accident."
Oh, yeah.
Right. Sometimes
We talked about this before, Richard.
Yeah,
So,
we have talked about this before.
so what she does is she writes in her biography, "I always wondered if I did the right thing by telling my mother a lie."
Yeah. I know that it can. I have a very flexible idea about this, because sometimes you can't pull those illusions away from people, or you'll pull the rug out from underneath them. But anyway, we have 24 seconds left. So this
Paula,
was,
you are so right about what you just said.
yeah, I mean, there's some things
You
in,
can always tell them later too,
yeah, well,
when you feel
I
they're
can't-
mentally
right, I can't,
stable.
Some video here if you want to see.
I can't think, ooh, look at that. I cannot think of anything right at the moment, but I'll try to come up with something for next time. Okay, so everybody, thank you so much for participating. It's been great.
Thank you for having us, Paula.
It's groovy. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, bye-bye.
Groovy.